73.22 is where the index is. Good going for the broader markets too. Small caps in leadership, 2.5% higher. But we've been chatting about Cairn India and what with the oil cess which has come about in the budget, which doesn't augur all that well for ONGC, and you're finding favor for names like a Cairn India. So let's start with the management then. Mayank Ashar, MD and CEO at Cairn India, joins us on the show right now. Mayank, you know, this budget has been pretty negative for oil explorers. Ad valorem duty has not been as per estimates. What's been your reaction on this?
Yeah, you know, first my reaction on the budget and then the energy sector. We understand that the finance minister had to look at all stakeholders across the country, and it is a very challenging time. So they had to find a variety of initiatives and stitch them together to a coherent whole with reforms and improvements in the agricultural sector, rural sector, skill development, infrastructure. And energy is a key part of this continuum as well. So we were hoping for some improvements, and clearly we want to acknowledge that reforms have happened. If you look at the new regime on the gas pricing for deep offshore fields to get full import parity, that is very significant. That is something the industry has been asking for a long time. So to get full recognition and implementation of that is very noteworthy. And you know, the backdrop to the budget is the ministry has been doing some reforms of its own. I was at CERAWeek in Houston last week, where the Indian marginal fields were announced. So you know, I see this as not a one-shot deal, but a continuum of openness of energy sector for investment in this country, because energy is special. As you know, oil, we import 3/4 of our oil consumption, so it is important that we get the indigenous production right. So we were hopeful in this budget that the cess levy would get significantly altered. We note that it did get altered to ad valorem, but the percentage of ad valorem is a lot higher than we were expecting. But we accept this as a first step, and we hope that we can continue, and not just Cairn, but other producers as well. We will continue dialogue with the ministry and the government for a continued improvement investment climate.
So how much pressure are you witnessing on your realizations now that the cess also has not been as per estimates and crude prices, they continue to fall?
Yeah, you know, the energy industry is facing a perfect storm. And it doesn't matter whether you're an OPEC country or a shale oil producer in the United States or a oil and gas producer anywhere else in the world. We are facing very significant pressure of the like we haven't seen in quite some time, many decades actually. As far as Cairn is concerned, if you look at Rajasthan field, we are very proud of this field. We have some of the lowest cost oil in the world. But despite that, what we find is at these levels of prices, with the current burden that we have, it is our profitability is under significant stress. And if you were to look at our earnings after depreciation, they are virtually negligible. So this results in us looking hard at shutting down some unprofitable production. So very, very severe, and we were really counting on the cess burden to be significantly lower. It hasn't happened yet, but we hope that we can continue to dialogue with the government and find a way so that the burden on the industry is not severe, not so severe that it crimps investment.
Okay.
So
what's the option available? ONGC expects some negotiations to continue with the government. You too will reach out?
Yes, I think you know, we acknowledge the government efforts here. They clearly recognize that it was an issue, and we would suggest that their response is less than what it ought to be. But we appreciate the first step. So I'm not surprised at all that ONGC is feeling the pain. We're feeling the pain, and together the two of us pay a lot in cess. So that is not surprising. I haven't spoken with them, but I know that they are feeling the exact pain that we are. And I do want to separate a burden from a, for lack of a better word, an allowance of sorts. Sometimes there are incentives given to industries to invest or to grow, and then there are burdens, and burdens are fair because at the end of the day the oil and gas is owned by the government, by the people, so it's appropriate that the industry pay a burden. But when that burden goes from fair to an extremely high load, at that point we go away from win-win to a win-lose. And we would suggest that in any industry, not just oil and gas,
of course,
when the burdens are too high, where the government take is too high,
yes,
it has the natural collateral effect.
That it does, Mayank, that it does, but I'm afraid I'll have to come in out